of like Netflix did for us, or even the way Spotify did it. Like I used to have CDs on a shelf.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's weird. My music, my CD, I purchased this. I'm like, no, I have a streaming, app, and I just have access to all the songs in the world. The CD should be the same.
You know what you're about to listen to? The Coolville Urbanism Podcast. I'm your host, Mikael colville-andersen. I did a keynote a couple of years ago wherein I explored the power of words as related to urbanism. I cataloged around 50 words and phrases in regular use in the various branches of the industry and tracked when they came into widespread use. It was interesting to determine that a majority started being bounced around after the year 2000, and the majority of those words and phrases appeared after 2010. We are indeed thinking differently about our cities and towns for the first time in a century in this age of urbanism. I also noticed, however, that many of the words and phrases were synonymous, variations on the same concept or theme. Many are merely new wine in old bottles, describing something pre-existing with a fancy new catchphrase. Boy, we love catchphrases that describe our concepts. One of the phrases that is often thrown around, especially here in Scandinavia, is democratic design, placed on a lofty pedestal. And that's what this episode is about. I have many friends and colleagues who inspire me, and I am grateful for that. Like-minded individuals with whom I share common goals and dreams of better cities. Most often people I like to drink with as well. There is, however, a small handful of friends who I simply cannot imagine living without. For their friendship, but also for their boundless knowledge and passion for the quest of making life-sized cities. One of them is my guest in this episode. I'm not just being polite with this introduction. I mean it quite literally. I've known Bianca Hermansen for many years. We're friends and we've worked together. Bianca has a PhD from the Royal Danish Academy of Fine Arts, and she has a long career in working for urban change. She is wonderfully disruptive and incredibly creative. Anytime I get to tap into her brilliant brain, I'm thinking about what we talked about for days afterwards. We hadn't seen each other for more than 18 months because she lives in London and, well, pandemic. But I had the pleasure of inviting her as a guest on the Life Size City podcast to record a conversation about the topic of democratic design, after having talked about it many times over the years. We move into solutions after defining the problems. Curation as the new urban planning being one of them. The forecast said cloudy and 19 degrees, so I suggested we meet in the botanical garden of the University of Copenhagen's agricultural faculty, which is also a wonderful public park in the densely populated city of Frederiksberg. The forecast was wrong. It was drizzly when we met, so we sat underneath a beautiful old tree on its ancient roots. And then it started to rain. Soft summer rain, but rain nonetheless. So that's the soundtrack you'll hear in the background, punctuated with a gentle staccato of raindrops on our clothes. Now it's time to meet Bianca. Hi, Bianca.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
Good to see ya.
Which is everybody saying that all over the world these days. Haven't seen you for a while. Yeah,
I
haven't seen
18
anybody.
months.
Yeah. So hey, we're sitting here in. It's kind of a botanical garden because there's signs all over the trees here, like showing you what it is. But the University of Copenhagen's agricultural faculty or something.
Park. Yeah.
But it's a beautiful park.
It's open to the public.
Yeah, in the heart of Frederiksberg, nice urban park.
Doesn't close at 4. There's no gate, no key.
That's true, right? Yeah, weird in other countries where parks are closed at night, right? But
especially science parks, right?
But then maybe that leads me into what we have talked about many times before.
Yes.
Democratic design.
Yeah.
When you hear the phrase democratic design,
you think BS.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, okay. Let's get to that part.
Oh, okay.
I was hoping for...
I was just going for it, man. I was just like, let's get to it.
Go hard or go home. But like, what should it mean? The phrase democratic design? Because it's something that you mention it in other countries, you know, in my keynotes or whatever.
Yeah,
What's that? I mean, it's intuitive,
right.
but what is it supposed to mean?
Right. So it's supposed to, like you can say the literal phrase or the literal sense of the word is that it's spaces that provide the most functionality, access, joy, prosperity, whatever, thriving, well-being to the highest amount of people, right?
Like everybody, almost, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
like everybody. So that's why, interchangeably, we're talking about inclusive design and democratic design. Now, I think the reason why democratic design, also how it's like democratic design, so it sounds cooler than inclusive design, but I think the reason why it's gained momentum on the political side of things is because it really, one thing is that it refers to the design itself, but it also kind of sort of hints to the process behind it, right? The process of arriving at that design. So, but I mean, for the sake of argument, they're interchangeable. Inclusive design and democratic design. We're talking about the same thing, basically.
So what cities...
Yeah.
We're getting to the BS part because you really want to go there, and I know that. But what cities like in the world do you feel are perhaps closest to the noble goal of being democratically designed?
Well, as much as I hate to say it, because I hate the westernization of the world, but Northern European cities, Nordic cities, you have some German cities. You have some Dutch cities. You can say Copenhagen and Berlin are good examples of it, right? But Barcelona is catching up slowly, right? So we do see it widening. And then we do see attempts. You could say that maybe Shanghai has certain attempts, but they're not there yet, right? You also see other attempts, like in the US, for instance, but they're not there yet. And so I wish I could give you like a really cool like African city or something, but I just can't. We're not there yet. So the concept essentially is focused in the Northern European cities, and then it sort of funnels out from there. And I mean, obviously we have the outliers like Bogota, right? But it would be nice to see a different take on it, because it very much so, when we're talking about urban planning, all of a sudden starts to have a look and feel. And right now that look and feel is Western. And I'm not sure, that's the way to go, particularly with the future being Asian.
When I hear the word, I agree with you with some of these Northern European usual suspects.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of Tokyo in a way, because when I filmed The Life-Size City there, I was just, I spent a lot of time there, but like, just some of the, they have a lot of elderly, incredibly aging population, so they have to design for the elderly, and I think what we're going to get into is if you design for the groups on the ends of the spectrum, you start designing more democratically, but some of the facilities they have to aid people, the wayfinding for the seeing impaired, and parks that are designed to transform into different things. I mean, it is quite amazing. But we kind of get all the branding here as being.
But I think
democratic design here.
Yeah, but when you're talking about Tokyo, yes, they're age inclusive, and they have to. I mean, they have the largest. Senior population in the world, right? But there are other ways in which they are just totally not inclusive, right? So I would say, like, generally, if you sort of look at the world right now, there's this momentum. And this is what I feel like we need to start talking about when we talk about inclusive cities or democratic design. The whole diversity, inclusion, equity agenda worldwide is really gaining unprecedented momentum, right? And so the next institution in line for that, for having those conversations and revisiting those biases and whatnot, it's really city planning. You and I have been screaming for this for the past, decade, right?
Yeah.
As so many other people. But I think one thing is, what you and I have been talking about for the past decade, which is like, let's just please give us equal access to the city, first of all, take away the car dominance. And then second of all, please give us interesting places that resonate with who we are as people, usable spaces, right? I think the next level that we're seeing right now is this inclusive paradigm, the sort of diversity, inclusion, and equity, right? Okay, so I did this calculation together with an engineer, where we were sort of trying to estimate. Okay, so one thing is, yes, you have access to the city, you can go there. But another thing is, do you feel invited? Do you truly feel included there? Do you feel like that's a space for you? And, we tested it out on London, right? And we arrived at the fact that probably around 72% of the population is excluded from London.
Just say that number again.
72%
are excluded.
Yes.
Wow.
To a lesser or higher degree feels excluded. And, I won't bore you with the numbers because that's going to be a whole podcast in itself, right? And you're going to have a lot of nerds wanting to challenge all of that and so on. But the thing is, let's roughly say 50% women, right? Then you got another 10 to 15% LGBTQ plus people. They often also feel excluded in these very car-dominated, male-dominated kind of spaces, cisgender spaces. Then you got your seniors, then you got your kids. That arrives us at a stunning 80%. Then we have to account for the people who still feel included, even though they statistically shouldn't, but they still do, right? So we arrive somewhere along 72%. Now that's not okay.
No.
In my opinion, that is effed up, So yes, you may be able to physically get around the city unless you're in a wheelchair, because we all know London is not necessarily accessible that way. But it doesn't mean you're included.
My first sort of angle into this thinking, apart from talking to you, was walking around the neighborhood with Lulu when she was little. I think some of the listeners might have heard me tell this story before, but it's my podcast.
Yeah.
No, but we're walking around. She's 4.5. She's already the world's youngest urbanist, just blurting out nuggets of wisdom that just make me go, what? And writing them down. And we're holding hands, waiting to cross the street, and she was kind of quiet for a while, little tiny kid, just looking around. And then she just turns and looks up to me and says, Daddy, when is my city going to fit me?
Oh, I love that.
Just
God, I love that.
Garbage cans, basketball hoops, building, everything's out of scale, right? Yeah. And I went, oh my God. I knew that this was one of the better ones. And I said, you'll grow, you'll be fine. Look at your big brother. And she kind of, didn't say anything. Just looked at me with it's a rhetorical question, you stupid adult. God, this isn't a conversation.
But you're so slow, Dad.
Jeez. But what happened was weeks and weeks and weeks, I was completely obsessed by this question, thinking, riding around Copenhagen, okay, does it fit me here?
Right.
Queen Louise's Bridge, it was designed for me. There was a poster of Mikael on the wall when they designed it, and a poster of everybody else. You know what I mean? Other parts in Copenhagen, Copenhagen, were no way, not for me at all. Most cities in the world, no, I don't feel like it fits me. But then I decided to give it a name because it was something that just obsessed me, and to honor her observations, I called it the Life-Size City, which is the name of this podcast, and then also the global TV series and stuff, right? Looking for life-size cities, looking for pockets of life-sized goodness in unlikely places. Going to Bangkok, the researchers are going, ooh, I don't know what we're going to find here, and then you just find amazing people raging against the machine in asphalt Bangkok, right? So anyway, for me, there's always hope. I'm always the optimist, right? There's always people do good stuff. But you're saying we have momentum, but we need to ramp it up.
Yeah, because here's the thing. So, when you look at urban planning, you look at all the books out there, you look at all the design proposals, you look at all the competitions, you look at all the websites of the different companies describing their projects. They all say the right thing. We want to design for everybody, democratic design, blah, blah. They all say the same thing. However, when looking back sort of the past, 18 years of my experience as a, commercial practitioner and researcher, right? An academic, I just find very little evidence of the delivery of that. So it's not the intention. That's not the problem. The intention is there, 100%, right? And also you can say the whole diversity, inclusion, and equity wave is sort of, it's a tsunami, it's going to hit us. So obviously everybody wants to know how to not get caught in that slipstream, right? But it's not the intention. It's really a matter of, okay, so you say the right things, you want to do the right thing, but the result that I see, you're not delivering. I'm sorry, but I'm not getting it. You're not delivering what you say you would, right? So really what I see the problem being is a sort of lack of ability or enablement or empowerment to make that, to manifest that intention in built city.
I think the visual example of that is what never stops. architects designing a development, a building, and their renderings. Oh my God, it's just, architecture porn. Look at all the happy people eating ice cream, and then you see what they build, especially here in Copenhagen. And half the bling is gone, and there's no people because they forgot to design that out.
Value engineering, you take all the fun out of it, and you take all the good stuff out of it. Yeah, and so really I think it's a matter of architects, urban planners, urban designers owning up to the fact that they don't know how to make it come true, right? And so that's an industry challenge. But I think now is the time, because let's imagine we get caught in that slipstream of that giant tsunami coming in, right? The Black Lives Matter, Me Too, all that stuff. Let's imagine we don't know how to deal with that, and all of a sudden urban design is even more behind its users than it is now. Mm-hmm. I mean, already if I'm saying 72% of Londoners might feel excluded from the city, London is way behind. What do you want to get to, 100% behind? Like, I'm sorry, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like we really now is the time, and I think the time is also to call out the BS. Being like, you know what? Put a sock in it. That's not helping. You got your like Frauenstädter, you got like cities for POCs or feminist design or whatnot. I'm like, stop it. It's getting us off course. That's not the conversation we need to have. We can't design sort of drip, democratic design here and there. We need to think about it just like universal design, right? It needs to be for everyone, truly for everyone. So whenever we have these projects and these conversations, I always get a little upset because I'm like, you're not freaking helping. You're not helping the conversation. The conversation needs to be taken to a different place altogether, where we're saying like, we are doing things wrong, and potentially that is because whenever we have our conferences where we sit together in the room and all agree, the polite nodding, right, we all agree, we share successes rather than failures. I think this is a key point too, right? When am I going to see an urban planning conference where people from all over the world get together and share failures? That's learning. That's what learning looks like.
I noticed years ago talking about Copenhagen as a bicycle city and broadcasting that for the past, 15 years.
Yeah. We're getting old, man.
I'm getting old. I'm also glad I'm doing Life Size City and other stuff and broadening that. Bikes are awesome. But I mean, I noticed that when I started talking about like all the mistakes that Copenhagen made back in the 90s when they were launching the bicycle on the urban landscape as transport, boom, people were interested in that because they're getting tired of hearing, Copenhagen's so awesome, Amsterdam's so awesome. What about all the screw ups? Exactly, right? Yeah. And then, but then you also, you learn more from mistakes than you do from. Well, you can also just copy paste an amazing, bicycle city like Copenhagen into any city in the world. But you got to also learn where we went wrong at some point, right? Even if you don't do it yourself, if you know that that's lingering in the back, don't do that because they tried that already.
Exactly, right, yeah.
How do we define who cities are designed for now and have been designed for a long time? Is it just the...
it's the classic cisgendered white male privileged people, right? But the whole point is that the world, when you look at, for instance, are other platforms for coming together, or other democratic platforms. The city is one democratic platform. You got your learning and public institutions as another one. You got your workplace as another one. You got your social media as we can go on and on. When you look at those other platforms, they are way behind. Urban planning is not at par with that agenda when you compare it to other industries, like tech, social enterprise, and giving me a small thing like food. You got more democratic design in terms of food than you necessarily do in terms of sidewalks, around the city. Yeah. Like, why is it still that when I'm walking down a sidewalk, my desire line is cut off every so often by a side street because a car is turning? That car, the majority of people who live in urban areas, let's just get this straight, do not own a vehicle. They do not own a car. So why is it the car gets the front seat and I get the back seat in that home?
And you're just walking to the bakery,
I'm just walking to I'm literally just walking to the bakery. Plus, I spend more money. Pedestrians and bikers spend more money in the city. So it's not even an economic perspective. It's simply sort of an old structure. And the key, you can say the main character in that old movie, the cisgendered white privileged male, he's going away. He's being replaced. So we need to replace that structure, because that structure doesn't reflect the needs and motivations and behaviors and wants of our actual users. So there's something that's off. And that's what we need to address.
I've sort of looked at it a bit broader, how cities are designed for just that massive group in the middle that just have money.
Yeah.
You're talking about
yeah.
cis white,
yeah.
cis white males and stuff, and that whole, baggage we have to
Yeah.
deal with. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But really, it is just, oh, you got a job? Okay, cool. Buy a house, buy a car, generate the, money for the economy.
Go to the cafe, spend money there.
40
you can
kroner
sit
for a
there.
cafe latte in Copenhagen.
Exactly.
Boom. And then at the other end, we have the kids. Nobody gives a damn about them generally in planning in cities. And we have the elderly who they are even more forgotten than the kids are, right?
And if you're poor,
because the kids are future consumers.
Yeah.
The elderly should just fuck off and die, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And if you're poor, no one cares about you.
Yeah.
Because you're not a consumer. You're not interesting. You're actually a liability more so than an asset. What is up with that? Particular in a world where we know, I'm going to say something harsh now, but you know this already, right? But your children are going to have a lower standard of living than you and I had because of climate change.
Yeah.
So we need to start thinking about poverty in a different light, because we're going to have more people who are going to be poor based on the mistakes of the past, not what they achieved in their life or whatnot. So that whole stigma around poverty, that needs to go, man.
Yeah. Oh, it's those poor people over there. Okay, wait. You're saying I have two in my apartment.
Exactly.
And, but it's a scary
You're
thought.
raising two poor people.
No, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and you're doing your very best to raise
totally understand
two
it, but
poor
then there's the
people.
dad sitting there going, oh,
Yeah.
wait, hang on. Yeah. So how do we fix it? I mean, who's going to be the leader?
Yeah, right.
And where will the elite leaders emerge towards the future that we have to have, that we deserve, the future that we're describing here today? You pointed at some of the cities that are kind of doing cool stuff, not enough, but where do you think the leaders are going to come from?
The leaders are going to come from those people who are going to be like, you know what, enough is enough. So it's going to be small startup kind of design firms. It's going to be maybe some of the major engineering firms that takes a chance and hires some people in who really want. Let me put it this way. As the baby boomers are exiting the boardroom, and they are, because they're retiring, they currently make up about 3% of the global workforce or something like that. However, unfortunately, they are also the main decision makers. So when they exit, that whole agenda in the boardroom is going to change dramatically. You're going to have the Gen X's, you're going to have the millennials, and hopefully also some Gen Z's every once in a while come in and be like, hey, we need to do this differently. Once that happens, within the next 5 or 7 years or so, we're going to see a whole wave of things starting to change. What I'm saying is, I don't think I want to wait that long, right? I don't want to wait for the baby boomers to retire before we see this change, but that change is coming definitely. And so you can either decide if you're going to be part of it, or if you're going to be like stuck in that slipstream that I was talking about before. And the change is going to come in the sense that, a lot of this stuff that also, for instance, with the Me Too, right? Like just how flight attendants, people are starting to say, why do flight attendants dress that way? Why can't they wear whatever they want? Or why is the Norwegian volleyball team, why do they have to wear a thong? Why can't they wear whatever they want? That kind of thing. It sort of happens because someone stops and pauses for a moment and says, what the F? What is that about? That doesn't make any sense, right, in a modern world. So when someone pauses and says, why am I being interrupted on that sidewalk by a car? Who owns a car? I don't even know anyone who owns a car, you know what I mean? Then that's going to change. Until then, it's going to be a political thing where the politicians, again, as we know, because that's how their livelihood is structured, try to please whatever they think the majority is. So as soon as we get not just a voice, but we also get sort of concrete action behind that, because someone just pauses and says, this is weird. This doesn't make any sense. This does not resonate with common sense whatsoever. Why are we still doing this? Like pulling down statues of slave owners or whatnot. When that happens, there is no turning back for sure. I'm just not sure I want to wait another decade before you and me, we get to see it, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, there's a municipal election coming up here in Denmark in November, but you can see already now, of course it starts early, but that, they're really trying to capture the vote from the people in the middle, the parents, the car owners, the house owners and stuff. And the whole massive problem we have in Copenhagen After a decade of being, Copenhagen, they do everything right. Now it's just, we're just screwing up like on a level I haven't seen since the 50s.
It's
really.
so right. We're falling behind. We're so falling behind.
Car sales through the roof.
I know.
There's
I know.
massive increase in the number of cars just in Copenhagen,
Yeah.
and then the way that the developers are tackling things.
Oh, right.
The biggest dinosaurs in the whole game.
Yeah.
Building large apartments and homes for the nuclear family idea that we had in the 50s. Husband
Double
and wife
income
and 2 kids.
family.
Yeah, and double income 2 kids, right?
Yeah.
Where we have more singles than ever
Exactly.
before. We have students. We have
And
just
more
people,
diverse people.
and lots of more divorced people. Fine, yeah. So like, it's really frustrating now to live in a city that was cool, and now it's just like rough and stupid and 1950s American in their mentality.
Yeah, and I think obviously this is always the problem. Once you sort of this lullaby starts to circle around you, where everything is saturated by you're doing good, you stop taking chances because you don't want to lose what you have. That's human nature, right? I think the point is that if we were to include some of the excluded people in the process in a better way than we're doing today, that would have a major impact, right? So, for instance, when we talk about when we have user involvement here in Copenhagen, it's the people who show up who gets hurt the most. And the people who show up are either the people who have a personal interest. I don't know, that guy who just wants more parking in his street, and he's just going to not stop talking about it until someone listens. Or it can be that hipster couple that really want like a pea patch, like an edible garden kind of thing in the street or whatnot, right? We don't actually have a lot of the, second or third generation immigrants who kind of just want a basketball court. We don't have a lot of the single mom black women who are kind of like, you know what, I just want more lighting so I feel more safe walking home. But they don't show up, so they don't get hurt. So you can say what we could do if we wanted to start taking chances again in Copenhagen is we could start actively inviting those people. So not sort of like, well, if you show up, you're hurt. That is kind of Danish mentality.
Yeah.
But more so being more practical, kind of like the US, where they're going out, finding those people who can represent. I mean, if you can take, for instance, the UK, I think you have less than 1% black architects actually designing the major projects that win. So you're like, wow, there are some voices here that are not being heard at all.
I've also read that the number of female architects in the UK is falling. It was
Yes.
kind of going the good way, and now
I know.
it's going backwards, right?
I know.
It's
Well,
hard-
luckily in Denmark, we still have a lot of female architects.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it really is actually.
it's quite unique.
Also, the point here is I don't think about that, but when you
Yeah.
say it, I'm going, yeah, cool. And the great thing is I don't think about it, because they're represented,
right?
right?
Yeah.
I filmed in like 18 cities for the Life Size City. We're on a break because of COVID, of course. We'll resume season 4, but 10 different projects in 18 cities. There's so many that are amazing that I continue to think about and are inspiring. But there's just one that I just go back to
Yeah.
every single time. And there's this young planner, grew up in the townships, the informal settlements in Cape Town.
Yeah.
Educated himself as a town planner against all the odds, African guy. And what he does is he goes back into the hood, into the other informal settlements, completely ignored by the city. Oh, here's some outhouses, here's some, some lights, but they're like super high, like stadium parking lights, right?
Yeah,
Completely
yeah.
useless in the very densely populated shanty town kind of structures they have. But he goes in, and I was with him, and we went in to meet some of these people, some of the poorest, people I've ever met,
Yeah.
really. And he says, yeah, you just asked them. And first of all, they're going, nobody's ever asked us this. Nobody's ever talked to us about this. And then, get a pen. The ideas just come roaring through. And all it's not like, we want to have a wind farm, because they're not reading The Guardian about some cool little wind project, They're like, no, you know what? The toilets. The city just dumps them off at the edge of our informal settlement.
Yeah.
And it says, there you go. And they calculate wrong. They say, okay, there's like how many houses are there here? So there's toilets, but they don't realize that there's 6-7 people living in each of these small structures, like families. And then the one moment, probably the strongest human I've ever met.
Yeah.
holding her baby there. She's going, you know what, they all spoke English, it was cool. Yes, I think, distributing the toilets throughout the settlement so I don't get raped or sexually assaulted on my way to go pee at night.
Yeah.
Okay, very simple idea, but also, you mentioned lights before as well, right?
Yeah.
And what about, we need like a public square. Okay, can you get that guy to move? And we'll build him another little shack with corrugated iron over there. Yeah. And then the guy's going, yeah, I'll move, totally. Can you help me build the house? Yeah, sure. And then they have a public square now where they can just meet and discuss issues and stuff. I mean, just amazing, simple ideas. And citizens, I've just learned all over the world, they just have the simplest ideas, I always say, whatever street you live on, you are the expert.
No, absolutely.
Leading expert on the planet about that street.
Yes.
Every pothole, every little brick that's a bit, you keep tripping over it. You can't plan that from 20 kilometers away using maps, right? No. So, man, it's so important to engage the citizens. But that's a culture that needs to develop, that planners actually want to listen to these people, that, here in Denmark we do it, but in other cultures they're going, oh wait, I have to talk to humans?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I have to talk to someone who doesn't have money?
Yeah.
Oh, who doesn't have an interest in the... Yeah. What is a stakeholder, right? I hate that term, like the stakeholders. I'm like, no, can we just talk about like residents or like people? Can we just talk about the people and not the stakeholders or key stakeholders? We need to listen to our key stakeholders. No, how about we listen to everybody?
Everybody's a key stakeholder.
Everybody's a key
right?
stakeholder. Yeah. It's our city. Yeah. It's our habitat. Can we talk about, Michael, how to fix it once you've effed it up?
Yeah.
Because I think
everybody wants to hear the answer to this. We're sitting there bitching about cities, and maybe there's some solutions out there. Bring it on.
No, but obviously, if we can redesign spaces, we should. But also with the current financial state of the world post-COVID, we might not have the funds to do that. So what can you do? And what I find more and more so now that I've learned to identify it and look for it and really understand it and analyze it, is curation. If you can curate city life, if you can curate an inclusive city, you can actually make spaces, even spaces that are just completely off, you can make them work. I'll give you an example, and this is one of my go-to examples for many reasons, but this, in terms of curation, it also works. We have this cute little square called Charlotte Amundsen's Place here in Copenhagen, and from a design point of view, it's not inclusive at all. It caters to teenage boys mainly, as like a skate facility. It has a basketball court, it has some graffiti and a climbing wall and whatnot. But then every Sunday throughout the summer, for instance, they have a outdoor ballroom dancing event for the seniors, where all the seniors come all dressed up, and they just dance their asses off. And it's just remarkable. And it's not just remarkable that the seniors are there, but it's also the crowd it draws. There you see diversity. You have all people, all ages, all genders, all races. You have the whole thing there, right? Just watching seniors dance is highly attractive in a city, you know? It's just a feel-good thing. And what they basically do is they open the doors to the culture house, have these giant speakers, just blasting out Frank Sinatra or Tony Bennett, and the whole, like the skate facility and the basketball court just fills up with these people, right? They also have mother-daughter basketball tournaments. All of a sudden, all these women just take over that space from, and you can see all the boys sort of like standing in the sides, and they're like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, this is my space." And those teenage girls are like, "Nuh-uh, it's not. It's my space today because I was invited. I have a Facebook invite that tells me I am included today, right in this moment. This is my moment. So you back off. I'm gonna, have the tournament here, and afterwards we're gonna sit down and have pizza, also in the basketball court. So you can just go home. It's not yours today. It's mine." Mm-hmm. And so I really think if we think about curating, right, facilitating that city life by inviting the user groups that are not invited per the design or per the policy, that has a huge impact. And that's a way smaller budget than it is to redesign anything. If you start looking at the city with that lens, you can go from neighborhood to neighborhood, talk to those people who are not included, and figure out what would include you. What would you feel welcome? What would make you feel welcome in that space, right? And then all of a sudden, you're including those people. And the thing is, though, that it does require a small budget, yes, of course, but it's peanuts compared to what it costs. I mean, you know this with liability and everything. Designing anything in a city costs so much money.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a different way of looking at it. And I think combined, obviously design and curation is the best solution, but making it through the next decade until we see the massive change worldwide, I think curation might be some of that solution. Well, all you would need to do is facilitate an online platform, a sort of calendar, where people could book an event, even if they want it, and then ask for the support to make that happen, to making sure that it's, safe, also making sure that, the tech works and, you have available. But then instead of being the promoter of inclusivity, the municipality all of a sudden, or the city, would become the supporter or the facilitator or the curator, right? There's a shift in the power hierarchy when you do that, which is really important.
Bottom up, right?
Yes.
Yeah, tip in the pyramid. There's a guy working for the city of Copenhagen, the guerrilla bureaucrat, they call him.
Yeah, I love this already.
Jakob Hartman.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say it in Danish and English.
I know.
Jakob Hartman, Greenpeace activist, for years, campaigning. Now he works at the city, and I interviewed him recently for another project. And I go, do you like the nickname Guerrilla Bureaucrat? And he's going, yeah, actually it's kind of
Who
cool.
wouldn't like that name? I mean, come on.
He's like my age, right? But he literally in Copenhagen, there's a program now called Sharing Copenhagen, where young people with a crazy idea can get like 3,000 euros and do something just wild.
Amazing.
There's one out in the southern harbor called the Floating Shelter. All they did was just build a little pontoon with a floating shelter, like you see in the Swedish woods. You're hiking along and there's a shelter you can use for free. And you can't get there unless you cross water. So that makes you think, how the hell do I get a floating structure, like a boat or a kayak, or can we swim out there?
Can we swim out
whatever,
there?
right? And it's just completely booked this summer.
That's amazing.
And it didn't cost very much at all, just a place to sleep on the harbor.
Yeah.
And that kind of citizen engagement is, I think, what you're talking about,
Exactly.
curating. Really, and he says, like, just some of the ideas are just like, too crazy to even happen, but just like he's always impressed by how creative these young people can be.
Yeah.
And 3,000 euros goes a long way if you're, already having no budget, and all of a sudden you go, okay, we have 3,000 euros, wow.
Yeah.
And then they're also creative with the materials and whatnot, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So that I see more and more of that around the world, not on any citywide scale like this program, Sharing Copenhagen, but it is kind of a thing, like in neighborhoods where you say,
It is a thing, but it's still like within a sort of NGO universe. And I would just love this if the cities would hire. They still need to hire planners, but I really would love it if they would hire facilitators and curators too, because that's equally important. And I think the whole point of this Sharing the City speaks towards this thing where we all live in urban areas by now, right? And we all share the city. And so for that reason, I think the notion of public space versus private space is obsolete. It makes no sense. It's lost its relevance as a sort of, dichotomy. What really makes sense is to talk about our space, our habitat. And we're all here and we need to share it. And the only way to share it is through appropriation when appropriate. So like at certain times, certain groups has it, at other times, other groups has it, blah, 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 right? And I think if we could change, kind of like Netflix did for us, or even the way Spotify did it, like I used to have CDs on a shelf.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's weird. My music, my CD, I purchased this. I'm like, no, I have a streaming, app, and I just have access to all the songs in the world. The city should be the same. Can we stop being so rigid about private and public space and just talk about our city?
Mm-hmm. So this is our park right now, you and me.
I've appropriated this tree. Right now.
Totally.
It's my tree.
Yeah, it's mine.
He's my buddy.
Yeah, it's ours. We're sitting there together. Come on.
It's ours.
Fight for ownership over the spot.
But it's ours while we're here.
No,
and
absolutely.
then we leave. Yeah. And then he's his own again, this tree.
That's hard for other cities to do. I know, working around the world.
Yeah.
It's kind of a easy shift for Copenhagen to become more curated. And other Nordic cities, other European cities. And I know it's certainly hard in North America with their liability issues and in that liability culture, and perhaps also in Asia, in China or something, they want a little bit more control over things, not letting the people have the run of the place, as it were. One of the cities to watch at the moment, talking about this, is Paris. It's just every week Paris is just what amazing things with mobility, but also participatory democracy. And they've been doing it for a while, but they just scaled it up this last year. You got a sidewalk, there's a tree, and there's maybe 2 square meters of dirt around that tree, because it needs to have that, open soil, right? Yeah. And now you see like little tiny fences put around it, and somebody can grow tomatoes. A pea patch, exactly. And there's a little sign saying this is Jean-Claude's. Yeah. Because he lives, it doesn't give you his address, but it says this is Jean-Claude's.
Yeah.
So
don't eat the carrots.
But I see that there's a name on it. I'm going, okay, so he's officially applied to be able to grow, something on that little plot next to that tree, which won't mess with the tree. But they have just gone to the next level. In Germany, they have a really amazing system. If we get 20,000 signatures in Berlin, we can force the city council to discuss our topic, right? Amazing. That's a lot, though. In Paris, they just took it down to like, 10 neighbors. I can't remember exactly, so don't quote me on that. But like just a small group of citizens on the street going, you know what, we want more trees. It's kind of hot. We want maybe a little picnic table because we like sitting outside. In Paris is like streamline the process, going, okay, do that, boom, boom, boom. And they're really just starting this journey, and it just looks so incredibly exciting, going to the next level and transforming the city. So definitely, in so many ways, Paris is going to be just,
It's one to watch.
Oh my God, yeah. So amazing. Well, how do you feel? I mean, are you confident that we're moving in the right direction? I mean, not because we were negative this entire conversation, but we were kind of outlining a lot of the problems, and you brought the solutions, some of the ideas of how we could start moving. Yeah. But are you confident that we're doing it?
No.
You and I, nothing's ever fast enough in the urban context. We are impatient idealists, right? We are very
impatient. Yeah, we are. No, I mean, I still think the discourse is off track right now. It's a cul-de-sac to talk about designing spaces or cities for certain user groups. Like designing a city for Muslim minority women. What is that about? Can we just design a city for people? Like, can we start there? Because currently, not all cities in the world, in fact, the majority of cities in the world aren't designed for people. They're designed for vehicles, and they're designed for political structures, and they're designed potentially in some areas for displaying the power of the patriarch, right? But again, that's all obsolete. It's gone. It has been. It's in the past. It's so yesteryear. No one wants that anymore, right? So, no, I'm not particularly optimistic at the moment. Not that we won't get there. I'm just saying it's going to take us forever to get there. Like how, the pay gap between men and women are going to be closed in 100 years. I'd rather not wait 100 years. It's that kind of impatience. And the discourse around designing for whatever it is, that's what's setting us off. It's keeping us from talking about the sheer truth, which is we need to stop doing what we're doing, start doing it in a different way altogether, and then all of those other problems that we're trying to solve individually are just going to go away.
Let me try and nudge you towards a happier place then.
Oh, all right, okay, fine.
An optimistic
place. It's your
place.
podcast. Nudge me.
No, but like COVID, man, lockdowns, March 2020.
Yeah.
What amazed me was the speed with which cities transformed.
Yeah.
Unlikely cities that never show up on my radar for doing anything, remotely cool. Boom, temporary bike lanes. Boom, outdoor seating. Even London, even Copenhagen, where everything's pretty good already, and we took away more car parking and put in some outdoor seating. Temporary bike lanes, Paris, Milan, Berlin. Milan said, these aren't even temporary like Paris and like what you're reading in the news, these are permanent. Yeah. This is our window of opportunity to force the urban change we need and deserve, right? But even Vilnius in Lithuania, never hear about them, and the mayor said, okay, let's just make the world's largest outdoor cafe. Because we have a small medieval city center, small bars and restaurants, so let's just move it all out into public space for free during this lockdown. It's not always going to be free, he said. But boom, and everybody just moved outdoor for social distancing early in the pandemic last time. So I'm just amazed at how cities finally realized after 70, 80 years of car-centric planning and, the whole big picture, the monster infrastructure mentality. Yeah. Oh, wait, we can do small-scale acupuncture. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. And what we're seeing all over the world is, wait, why are they taking that away? Yeah. I had breakfast. I met my girlfriend or boyfriend there, right? Yeah. Boom. And, we realize now as citizens, like, there was a lot of cool stuff. Cities were car-free. Yeah. They told us that wasn't possible, and we all saw it around the world. We've proven now we can do things fast. Yeah. And now it's kind of stupid if we don't do stuff fast anymore, man.
And actually, a couple of weeks back, I met this homeless guy, and he was asking for money. He was like, "Sorry, dude, I don't have any cash." Like after COVID, no one carries cash anymore, right? He was like, "That's okay. I got," and then he had a little thing.
Okay.
And I just beeped my card, and he got his money.
Okay.
And I was like, that's amazing. And he probably stole it, but it doesn't matter.
This is the world's most digital society.
Yeah.
I don't even remember when I had cash.
No,
it's like
right.
5 years since I had any kind of Danish coins or notes in my hand, even more.
and really, when you think about it, the shelters just instead of, they should also hand out sleeping bags, but could they provide these people with digital equality? Can we have digital equality?
Oh, that's a whole nother podcast episode.
That's a whole nother podcast. We're doing that next week.
All right.
Yeah.
But democratic design, wonderful concept, poorly executed or not executed at all.
No,
But,
wrongly executed and poorly executed. The intention is there. The ability to manifest that intention into real delivery, it's scarce. The great projects, I don't see them.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for them. I'm still waiting for them.
Yeah. But we don't want to wait anymore.
No.
We're done waiting.
Done waiting.
Bianca?
Yeah?
Thank you.
Thank you.
As always, for your brain in our conversations.
Thank you for a lovely conversation.
Now, I guess this is our spot here in the park and our tree, but it's also our rain. We've been sitting in the rain.
We have.
It was supposed to be drizzle, and then it started to rain, so we're completely drenched, but it's like summer still, so it doesn't matter.
It's summer rain. It's okay. It's a little cold, but it's not too much. I'm worried about my sneakers, though. They're pretty awesome. I'm worried if they're going to, let's see.
But hey, it was really cool to sit outside in the rain and podcast and talk to you.
Yeah.
So, cool.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Coolville Urbanism Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Colville-Andersen. Thanks for listening. And remember, it's your city. Take it back.